uploaded lah for group B's as well. Okay. Oh, kau buka the end of topic eh. Right. Okay, so today's topic is a bit different from what you have so far, but not much different because you have estate planning subject kan this semester so I understand in your estate planning subjects adalah both for Muslim and non-Muslim estate planning and also a bit on estate planning for clients and the steps and the estate planning process. But for this topic, the focus would be basically on not on the Muslim part that much lah. So on the faraid semua tu tak ada lah. Kita just introduce basically je, but because the details are actually covered in other modules because this module is zakat and tax planning, and kita cuma ada a bit on estate trust and also settlement, and also because for this subject the focus even though it is called estates, the focus is actually on the tax consideration, not much on the estate planning itself. Okay. Alright, so if you have any questions, so macam biasalah, feel free to unmute your mic or you can type in the chat box dekat sini Alright, so first of all, just a little bit of introduction about estates, because we have three elements here, if you can see, estates, trust, and also settlements. Okay, so this is actually among important category of persons, we call it persons under the Income Tax Act, whereby we have trust, estates, and also settlements. So in financial planning, we all know there are three essential activities, which are wealth creation, wealth preservation, and wealth distribution or wealth management. Because now you all pun dah dalam semester 6 in your third year already, so you know you all have covered all the wealth creation part. Maybe on the wealth preservation pun dah so at this stage kita nak tengok wealth distribution. How do you and how would you advise your clients in terms of their wealth distribution? So for trust, estate, and settlement, it is considered under wealth distribution, whereby if we talk about estate, estate administration, there are two steps. Number one is the kita kata the settler will place the estate in the hands of one or more individual who is authorized to take charge of the assets. Okay, so it is actually applies to Muslim and also non-Muslim. And to distribute the asset according to relevant applicable law. Saya letak dekat sini relevant applicable law because Distribution Act 1958, amended 1997 ni does not apply to Muslim because Muslim are governed by the Hukum Faraid, which is Islamic law of inheritance. So that's why I said by now I don't think I have to explain in detail. So I think dalam estate planning you ada masuk tajuk Faraid belum? Dah. Dah, okay, alright. So kita tak pergi detail untuk faraid tu. Just to let you know that for non-Muslim kita ada Distribution Act 1958. Even for Muslim pun part of the act tu kita boleh pakai. But for law of inheritance under Islamic law ni, for Muslim we use hukum faraid. Okay, next would be. Okay, so we will start with estate. Okay, we call it estate and most importantly we're talking about estate under administration. So apa yang kita tengok dalam ni under this topic ni is when we talk about wealth distribution, it can be when the person dies or not yet died lah. So this is the planning that they can do. Tapi kebanyakan untuk our example ni cerita pasal orang dah mati lah. Something which is not fun to know but it is important. One of the important aspect in financial planning is actually estate administration or estate planning. Okay, so when we talk about estate under administration, we are actually talking about the income up to the date of death, which is accessible on the deceased person whilst income after that date is assessed on the estate. So selagi hidup ni, the income will be assessed under the person's name atas nama sendiri. But bila dah tak ada, so the income after that date will be assessed on the estate. So in Malaysia kita tak ada inheritance tax. Certain countries ada. So certain developed countries such as US, Japan, UK, dia orang ada inheritance tax. Which means when you inherited certain harta ni, you will be taxed by the government. But kat Malaysia kita tak ada inheritance tax. Kita cuma the calculation would be the normal tax consideration which we will look at later. So for example here, inheritance tax ni usually found in developed countries such as Japan 55% tinggi, South Korea 50%, France kita ada 45%. Okay, so for tax purpose ni kita ada estate or deceased estate. So whereby we have a living individual, right? We is a chargeable person, including an agent, may be appointed to act on behalf of an individual. Okay. So kalau you all biasa tengok cerita Piramli dulu, ingat tak? Saya ingat tajuk dia cerita apa? Yang dia ada harta kat overseas tu kan? Ismet Ulam Raja yang kaya tu kan? So and they appointed someone untuk jaga the estate tu or the deceased estate tu. And the estate is to be administered by trustees. So we call them trustees, or sometimes you call them administrators who actually act as the legal representative of the deceased individual. So this is really important, especially kalau ada a lot of estate yang ada di banyak tempat or a lot of amount, and then the trustee tu ataupun kita kata the beneficiaries tu ada ramai, so memang it is very important to get the estate administered by administrator. So when we talk about estate under administration, again it is the deceased estate from the day after the date of death until the date of completion of the administration of the estate. Okay, sometimes kita tengok, okay, dia bagi the beneficiary is below 18 years old. So selagi budak tu tak sampai umur 18, dia tak boleh nak you know, he or she will get certain amount of money je kan untuk dia punya kita kata allowance ke. But the estate ataupun the money tu is actually administered ataupun dijaga oleh trustee ataupun guardian selagi dia tak sampai umur 18. So we are not going to talk about all the controversial or the disputes, tapi this is how it works lah for estate under administration. So all income accruing to the deceased individual up to and including the date of death is taxable under the name of the deceased individual. Okay, so again we are talking about the timeline. Selagi hidup sampai ke tarikh mati tu, they will be assessed under his or her own name. But after that, up to the date of death tu, dia akan taxable under estate or whoever yang jadi trustee tu lah. Alright, so all income accruing thereafter constitute the income of the deceased estate and it is taxable under the name of executors. Kita kata executor, orang ni yang akan manage lah. Okay. So who is the executor or is entitled to become the executor depends on whether the individual died leaving a will or without a will. So ini pun nanti all dah cover testate or intestate ni. So kalau ada will lain dia punya administrationnya or without will lain pula administrationnya. So we normally call a person ataupun a deceased with the will is as testator, also used to refer to individual who has made a will. So this person actually appoints one or more trustees to carry out the will. So the trustee may be anybody whom, in the opinion of the testator, can be relied upon to execute the will and look after the estate to the best advantage and interest of the beneficiaries. Okay. And the trustee ni not necessarily someone from outside. Sometimes the trustee is the lawyer. Sometimes the trustee can be one of the beneficiaries. Contohnya dia kata, okay, the father ni dia trust the eldest son. So the eldest son ni ialah the trustee. So dia juga one of the beneficiaries. It can also be a trustee company. Okay, kita boleh appoint amanah raya sebagai trustee company untuk manage or administer the estate. So the trustee will apply to the court for grant of probate ni off not PF ni. Sesat pula O dengan P sebelah. Which enables them to administer the estate. So for the case without a will, okay, tadi ada will without a will, beneficiaries can apply to the administrator and apply for the letters of administrations. I think by now you all have covered this part. This is quite tricky bukan senang nak dapat grant of probate dengan letter of administrations ni. So ada banyak benda yang kena produce. So whether it is a case involving a trustee or administrator, a trustee under a will or administrator, there is no will. So the duties will apply with regard to tax matters during the period of executive administration of the deceased estate. Okay. Again, the focus for this topic is actually on the tax consideration. Kita nak tengok macam mana that particular person ataupun the trustee tu will pay tax, not so much on the planning. So as an executor, they have to inform the IRB of the demise of the deceased individual in the prescribed form. Ini pun salah je, form not from. IRB must issue any assessment of additional assessment relating to the deceased individual within 3 years after the year in which the date of death was communicated to them. Okay, 3 tahun juga masa dia. Alright, just a simple example for you, just to look at the, kita kata the date. So Mr. D here died tested on 13 March 2015. So kita tahu dia ada will lah. And his brother, Mr. E, is the trustee as per his will. So on July 1st July 2015, Mr. E informed the IRB of the demise of Mr. D by submitting the prescribed form. So 3 years after the end of the year 2015 will be 3 years from 31st December 2015, which will be 31st December 2018. So any assessment or additional assessment from the IRB in respect of Mr. D's income or any disposal of real property attracting RPGT, so maknanya bila dia mati dalam masa 3 tahun tu, the asset tu boleh dijual lah. So maybe ada RPGT dekat situ. So for any period up until his death, it must be issued by 31st December 2018. Okay. If Mr. E had only informed the IRB on 5th January 2016, so IRB akan drag lah sampai 2019, 3 years from wherever date yang dia dapat information tu to issue any outstanding tax assessment or additional assessment relating to Mr. D's income or RPGT liability prior to his demise. So the date yang di-inform tu, kalau tengokkan dekat sini, IRB akan ambil date yang dia tahu tu sampai for the next 3 years lah. Not necessarily tarikh tu sama dengan tarikh mati. Okay, so the responsibility of executor to furnish off tax return. Okay, dia bila dia dah jadi executor, so for example here, Mr. D derive income from 2 businesses, interest from a loan to a friend and rental income. Okay. So his income from all 3 sources for the period 1st January 2015 to 31st March will be taxable under his own name. Ni saya kata tadi lah daripada dia untuk, because kita buat tax according to year. So here from 1st January until 13 March sampai tarikh the date of death tu will be taxable under Mr. D's name. Whatever income yang dia dapat after from 14 March tu sampailah 31 December for that particular year of assessment is actually accrued to Mr. D. Tapi dia akan jadi income of the estate lah for the year assessment 2015, which is actually subject to tax under the name of Mr. E as the executor. Okay, boleh So daripada mula sampailah ke date of death will be taxed under his own name. After that, the executor yang akan be taxed lah based on his income. So as the executor, Mr. E will be responsible for furnishing the tax return for year assessment 2015. Okay, nah dia kena buatlah untuk orang yang dah mati ni sebab dia adalah executor. So for Mr. D as well as the tax return for the deceased estate. So income for the following year, sebab nampak kalau ikutkan dia mati tadi March kan. So walaupun January sampai March tu will be taxed under name of the Mr. D, takkan dia nak buat sendiri, dia dah mati kan. So Mr. E akan buatkan, ada 2 benda lah. So Mr. E will furnish the tax return untuk Mr. D ni from January until March, until the date of death. And from April sampai December. So April sampai December nama dia, January sampai March nama Mr. D ni. So income for the following year, the next year tu will be subject to tax juga as the income of the deceased estate in the name of Mr. EE as the executor. Okay. So dia ni lah will be responsible for filing the tax return until the administration of the estate is completed, which is the 3 years tu. Bila complete dah 3 years tu, then dia tak payah buat apa-apa lah. Okay, so for income tax treatment of a deceased estate and beneficiaries, so lepas ni kita tengok balik ada detail apa, who are they actually when we talk about beneficiaries. So but now, I think not much issues lah because we have done estate planning part, so you know who are the beneficiaries who will get the benefits from the estate ni. So first of all, for the tax treatment, we are looking at the basis period for the deceased estate. So kita guna applicable as individual lah. So for receivable income, kita tengoklah whether it is subject to tax or not. Because we know kan, for dividend income, interest income, it is not taxable. So sama jugalah, the rules sama je. Or death gratuities kan, kita dah belajar gratuities, so exempted from tax. So EPF, kita tengok EPF is subject to tax. So semua ni, whatever you have learned before is actually applicable to this deceased estate. Whatever applicable to individual, applicable untuk estate dia. Alright, so contoh life insurance payment. Okay, life insurance payment and any sum insured is payable for death is not income or the deceased asset. Okay, ini satulah dah ada dalam, there are two things kalau you tengok under, tak salah saya ni memang dalam Income Tax Act ada dua benda. Satu, life insurance premium. Okay, life insurance premium ni kita tahu life, we're talking about life, not medical, life sahaja. Life, any sum insured payable for death and not as income. So katakanlah the beneficiary akan dapat the life insurance portion tu. Itu bukan income dia. So dia akan dapat terus je and they will not be taxed. Sama juga dengan EPF. EPF pun terus pergi dekat beneficiary je. Okay, so annuities and also distributions they are not regarded as income in nature. Right? Therefore, do not attract income tax in the hands of the beneficiaries. So beneficiary ni tak kena tax untuk tiga-tiga ni. Alright, so again, as I mentioned before, the calculation and the concept and also the kita kata basis period yang kita gunakan semua sama macam individual. So kita kena compute juga the total income. So total income of the deceased estate is computed as the same way as for an individual total income. So for example, dia ada employment income, dia ada dividend income, dia ada rental income. Semua kita akan kira just like we calculate for the individual. So for annuity, amount paid deductible, okay. So deduction for annuity made after deduction for any current year business loss before any approved donation. Alright, tertinggal perkataan income kat belakang ni. So computation of chargeable income sama juga. If kita kata the individual died domicile, maksudnya in Malaysia, the deceased estate will be entitled to a deduction for personal relief. So mati dekat Malaysia, resident in Malaysia, kita dapat personal relief based on the amount of in force of in the year of death tu. Katakan mati 2019, personal relief untuk 2019 applicable lah untuk dia dalam calculation dia. So if mati in year 2020, so whatever personal relief in year 2020 tu applicable to this deceased individual. So this deduction is available if the executor is an individual and resident in Malaysia. Okay. Tapi the deceased estate ni not eligible for any other tax relief such as child relief, insurance relief semua. And the tax rate application is also based on scale tax rate. Alright, so before we go further, again, so just a recap what is estate. So again, it is any wealth owned by a deceased person. Untuk orang hidup, kita tak kata estate in our calculation ni. So it is actually any wealth owned by a deceased person. So we can have executor or estate administrator who are actually responsible to settle any debts, pay income tax, and also distribute the residue of the estate to beneficiaries according to the Will or Distribution Act 1997. So regarding the tax matters, the executor is responsible to pay tax on income of the estate which pay out from the deceased person's estate. Jangan pula kata executor ni kena bayar tax daripada estate tu kan, not from his money. Dia akan ambil daripada estate tu jugalah. Dia cuma jaga dan tolong hantar the tax return. Kalau keluar duit di sini, siapa pun tak nak kan. Alright, so again, this is what we're talking about when we talk about estate. So how do we actually apportion the income? Okay, ini source of income can be from business, rental, interest, dividend, annuity. So the apportionment for business and rental, it is on a time basis. Maknanya tahun bila dia dapat, that will be taxed on that particular year. But for interest, dividend, and annuity, it is taxable based on the receipt basis. Okay, this is the computation of taxable income. So I have here two columns. Satu, this is the individual, and this is the date of decease. So akan jadi estate dengan decease punya lah. So for example, for business income, dia akan tax TB is time basis. Ikutlah business income tu untuk bila. Rental pun time basis. So foreign income received exempted. So ini semua exempted. Ini receipt basis. Bila-bila dia dapat kita akan kira lah. But most of the time interest and dividend ni exempted lah. Aggregate income, kalau ada loss tolak, kalau ada annuity payable tolak dekat sini. Total income, special deduction kalau ada, and we will arrive at the chargeable income. Okay, so kalau tengok computation ni macam biasa je lah. Alright, yang ni beza sikit. Because we want to know the basis period or the tax treatment for an estate. So when the person dies in the basis period for a year of assessment, so ini tadi kita dah tengok lah. The executor is responsible to assess and pay tax for 3 years. So tahun dia mati tu, year assessment macam tadi kita tengok 2015. So the following year and also the previous year kalau ada. And the tax rate depend on the domicile of the deceased person. So kalau dia resident, domicile ni kita tengok dia punya resident status lah. This is it means resident status. So kalau dia resident, kita akan ikut scale lah. Chargeable income 0 to 600k, 0 to 25, more than 400, 26, more than 1 million, 28%. So nampak tak lagi tinggi the estate tu, lagi tinggi the income tax. Kalau domicile outside Malaysia, flat rate of 24%. Okay, this is the reason why I start the discussion with estate. Sebab kalau tengok dalam ni, nampak tak semua ada dekat dalam ni lah. Estate ada, trust ada, nanti settlement ada. So from here you can see these three are actually related. So when we talk about estate and also trust and created under a will, so contoh dekat sini kita ada individual. Okay, so this is individual. Income up to the date of the deceased shall be accessible under the deceased individual. So atas nama dia sendiri. Nampak macam tadi this is the timeline. Daripada dia hidup sampailah ke date of death, dia akan assess based on his or her own name. Mati je, ada the date of death, estate dah masuk under administration. So you all dah belajar estate planning. This is very important. Kita kata dah lah. Paling senang is actually you buat masa hidup lah. Bila dah mati nanti susah. So yang dah mati tu tak apalah, yang pergi tu tak akan kembali kan, ni yang ada ni, yang tengah yang ada ni kan jadi macam-macam masalah. So estate under administration, okay, from the date of death ni sampailah habis sampai tempoh lah at the end of the administration, which is 3 years contoh kalau kita tengok tadi kan. So dalam ni distribution to the beneficiaries ni considered as capital distribution. So annuity payable deducted again aggregate income, recipient would be taxed under section 4E. Okay, orang yang dapat tu will be taxed under section 4E. So dia dapat lah jadi income dia. So the balance ni, kalau ada lagi residual value of the estate after the estate under administration tu, okay, dah cukup 3 tahun tadi contohnya, ada lebih, so the residual value of the estate ni akan pergi kepada beneficiaries ataupun trust body. Okay. So asset can be distributed either directly to the beneficiary or to a trust body if a trust is created. Okay, we are talking about millions of estates. Some very rich person. So hopefully nanti when you become a financial advisor, you can get a very rich person. So that would be quite complicated for you to handle sebenarnya. Sebab kalau dia ada banyak sangat macam ni, ada beneficiary lah, ada trust body lah, ada nak hantar wakaf lah, itu belum masuk situ wakaf lagi kan. ada nak letak sana sini, so the distribution to the beneficiaries ataupun trust body tu can be quite complex. But this is the timeline lah, kita nak tengok how actually the estate will be administered. Okay. Saya jadi mesin sini. So this is the example for the tax computation. So again, income up to the period of a person's death. So eligible to claim all incentive. Okay. So income after the death only can claim self-relief of 9,000. Ingat tadi child relief apa semua relief semua tak boleh claim lah. Income after the death. So let's say for year 2015, dia mati 2015, dia boleh claim all the relief yang ada in year 2015. Okay. Tapi untuk 2016, the next year tu, boleh ambil self-relief je. Because income after the death can only claim self-relief, which is 9,000. So the period of assessment, again, just like individual, 1st January until 31st December. Okay, so capital receipts are not taxable. For example, life insurance, death gratuities, withdrawal of PPF, these are not taxable. Okay. Taxable income ini je, interest from savings kalau ada, dividends kalau ada, rental income, business income tak masuk dalam ni. And deductible expenses, annuity payable ni not include annuity payment under the life insurance. So deductible expenses ni we can go back to our previous topics yang mana kita ada a list of deductible expenses, especially kalau kita tengok under semula under employment income, under rental income and also under business income. So this is how we should go about tax computation for a deceased individual. Okay, so this is the summary. So kalau nak tengok dekat sini, this is person 1st January until death date. So ini death date until 31st December. So I have it in the table like this so that you can see the date lah. So till death date tak kisahlah bila. But here from the death date until 31st December. So here untuk sini 1st January until 31st December. So half can be taxed under the deceased name and another half can be taxed under the executor or the administrator. So for example, business income. Regardless you mati ke, ada executor ke, it is taxable. Interest pun to some extent is taxable. So dividend is exempted. Rent, taxable. Foreign source income, which means you have, ini pun kita dah buat sebelum ni foreign source income pun is exempted. Ingat tak kita ada buat rental dapat from Singapore bawa balik Malaysia kan? So those are not taxable. So that will give us aggregate income. And then if there is current year business loss or annuity payable or approved donation, tolakkanlah, dapat total income. So less deduction kalau ada, so here dia ada 9,000. If dia resident, dia dapat personal relief of 9,000. Untuk executor ni, kalau dia mati tadi, dia mati dekat Malaysia, dia dikira domicile in Malaysia, dia dapat lagi 9,000 personal relief untuk executor ni. Okay, and also chargeable income. Dapatlah dia dekat chargeable income ni. So chargeable income ni depends on the schedule rate lah. Okay. Alright, sometimes the executor ni dia dapat remuneration maknanya dia tak ada dapat kerja for free not for free of charge. Dan dia ada certain kita kata remuneration untuk executor ni. But it is not allowed for deduction. However, when the executor run a business of the deceased individual, the remuneration is allowed for deduction if it links with producing the business income. Ada juga the executor run the business tu. So bila dia run the business tu, which means the remuneration ni can be deducted. Because for business income, if you remember, remuneration kita boleh tolak kan. But kalau untuk director, 50%. So untuk this one, you can go back to business taxation notes. So besides tax consideration, kita tengok tadi we are also interested in the distribution of income. So again for estate ni kita kata because when we look at this table ni, okay, so we are interested sampai sini lah under estate sampai estate under administration, under this part je. Dia masuk dekat sini, nanti kita akan tengok the next one which is trust. So for estate dia sampai sini je, which means sampai the first 3 years tu je lah, tahun mati and the next 2 years tu. Any questions tak for estate ni? So maybe it's quite different from what you have learned under estate planning, which is very complicated for me. Saya pun rasa complicated. You all saya tak tahu lah macam mana because we cover a lot of things. But here kita cuba tengok the tax consideration sahaja lah, which are this part. Nanti saya check if I have the question, nanti I will share with you later. Saya kena tengok dulu soalan-soalan apa yang sesuai lah untuk kita discuss dalam ni. Alright, so this is the important part because you know apa income yang taxable and some issues especially regarding the distribution of income ni. Okay, any question tak before I move on to trust? Tak ada lah kot
Tak ada.
Okay, next would be trust. So remember dalam ni kita ada 3 elements kita ada estate, trust and also settlement. So ini semua cerita pasal orang mati lah up to the date of death So tadi ni kita tengok estate sampai date of death and then dah administer for 3 years. So next one we have trust. So these are points that will be covered under trust. Ni trust dia panjang sikit banyak sikit trust dia because kita ada many types of trust. Untuk estate tadi tak ada, estate tadi straightforward je. Alright, so for trust, kita nak tengok nantilah. First of all, we have to know what is trust and parties involved in a trust. Type of trust, why are trusts used? Example of countries yang ada inheritance tax. Tax consideration, again, kita tak debate daripada kita punya, kita kata original focus lah, which is on the tax consideration. And tax provision and exemption kalau ada for trust. So first of all, when we want to talk about trust, we have to know lah apa ni trust So trust is a way of managing property or assets, including money, investment, land or buildings for people. So it is an ideal mechanism of holding and managing money or property for people who may not be ready or able to manage it for themselves. Okay, ni biasanya kita dengar kalau dia below 18 or below 21 untuk trust kita buat below 21. So bila 21 ni dia memang kita kata not ready to manage it for themselves. So normally akan ada trust lah. Okay, so a trust manage the distribution of a person's property by transferring its benefits and obligations to different people. Okay, so among reasons for setting up a trust are as follows. Satu, to control and protect family property or assets. Okay, tak ada trust nanti tak mana-mana begini kan. Or sekejap je tak ada proper planning lah So instead of boleh buat investment, habis semua dia belanja, tak ada. So one of the ways to control is actually to set up a trust. Including the foundation. So kalau tengok ada foundation kan, foundation untuk education lah, macam-macam. So itu pun to consider as trust lah. So when someone's too young or incapacitated to handle their affairs, okay, too young, dia tak boleh, ada property yang sangat banyak, estate tu yang dia dapat tu, let's say dia dapat daripada estate tadi kan, this is the beneficiary, so dia dapat sangat banyak, so bila dapat banyak and then tak too young untuk handle, so kena ada trust body. To pass on property or asset while an individual is still alive. Okay, ini yang paling penting lah, this is the most important part in estate planning buatlah dulu semua. And to pass on property upon death juga with a will. When someone wants to set up charitable trust, ini saya kata tadi lah, the foundation ataupun trust buat untuk education lah, charity lah, maintenance of animals kan. So ini perlukan juga trust ni. Okay, next we want to know who are the parties involved in the trust. Okay, kalau tadi dalam estate, kita ada executor ataupun administrator. So here dalam trust ni, kita ada 3 parties. We call them settler, trustee and beneficiaries. Okay, who are these people? So kita boleh tengok dalam diagram ni lah. So this is the basic structure. It can be more complicated but the basic structure of a trust, we can have a settler. So settler ni yang creates trust via a trust deed. Maknanya owner lah, the owner is called settler. Dia lah yang appoint trustee, dia lah yang akan transfer all the property or asset to the trust. So ini harta dia, we call him or her as a settler. Okay, so dalam this is the person. So kat atas kita ada trust deed lah, macam will tu apa yang ada dalam tu, all the how the trust will operate. Contohnya ini hanya untuk charitable trust sahaja contohnya. So in Islam for Muslim trust ni kita termasuk dalam wakaf jugalah wakaf termasuk dalam trust. Okay, so trust deed ni macam mana the trust will operate, and then we are going to have kita kata trust ataupun trust body. So trust ni is the legal owner of the property of assets, and he or she ataupun the trust body manage and administer trust in accordance with trust deed. Okay, dia buatkan je lah, dia run the ataupun dia operate the trust. So beneficiary ni ialah beneficial owner of the trust property, orang yang akan dapat, dia receive income and or property itself at the appointed time. Okay, so these are the three parties yang involved dalam trust. Mesti ada, tak ada tiga ni tak nama trust lah. We must have settler, we must have a trust, and also beneficiaries. I have something to share with you bagaimana. Okay, tak apalah. Alright, so tadi the diagram here is the explanation lah. So the settler yang saya dah explain tadi. So like I said, the settler is the owner, the original owner of the property before transfer to trust. So dia lah yang akan decide how the asset should be used via a trust deed. So it can be money, investment, land, buildings. Trustee ini ialah ataupun it can be a trust body lah. Appointed by settler via trust deed. Settler can also be a trustee. Beneficiary pun boleh jadi one of the trustees. It can be individual, group of individuals or a company. So trustee akan jadi legal owner of the property ataupun asset held in a trust. Dia hold the property for beneficiaries. Dia lah manage. Dia own fiduciary duty to the beneficiary. Dia act in the best interest of the beneficiary when dealing with the trust assets and also for tax purposes lah. Untuk bayar tax. So panjang lah the function of the trust ni, panjang kalau tengok boleh baca nanti. So kita kata the trustee are responsible for the trust body for any period of time when the trustee's responsibility or obligation arises. So apa yang trustee kena buat ialah register the trust for tax, keeping record, submission of tax return, payment of tax or debt due. Provide each beneficiary with details of their share of the total income from the trust body so that the beneficiaries can include this amount in their income tax return. Okay. And trustee ni may be paid remuneration lah for service, specifically provide for this. Beneficiary, it can be one or more. So beneficial owner of the asset, right to income and capital would depend on the type of trust set up. So benefit ni, rental, dividend, capital only ni, held in trust upon attaining a certain age, or both as case may be, and entitlement to the trust income will depend on the trust deed. Okay, dia bergantung pada trust deed tadi. Alright, so we have here the different types of trust. Tapi saya cuma letak dekat sini the main types of trust je lah. Alright, kita first one kita ada bare trust. So kita kata bare trust ni held in the name of a trustee and often used to pass asset to young people at a determined time. So the asset set aside by the settler will always go directly to the intended beneficiary at a predetermined age. So there is no further duty of performance by the trustee except for transfer of the property to the beneficiaries as directed. Okay. So dalam discretionary ni termasuk dalam bare trust. So kita ada discretionary trust. So namanya pun discretionary, distributed to the beneficiary at the discretion of the trustee. Okay, ni powerful sikit tau sebab dia discretionary. So the trustee ni ikut pada dia discretion. Dia yang buat, given the power to make certain decision on how to use the trust income and sometimes the capital. Walaupun kita kata the trustee ni will act at the best interest of the beneficiary, but sometimes yang biasalah kalau kita tengok movie lah, ada cerita-cerita sometimes the trustee tu dia manipulate ataupun dia kita kata abuse the power kan. So dia ada power untuk make certain decision, tapi lain decision dia sepatutnya buat tapi lain yang dia buat. But according to discretionary trust, memang the power memang pada trustee lah untuk make certain decision how to use the trust income. Contohnya, who gets paid out? Okay, income or capital? What gets paid out? Nak bayar apa? Dalam bentuk apa? Which beneficiary to make payment to? How often payments are made? Setahun sekali ke? Sebulan sekali ke? Or any conditions to impose on the beneficiary. Okay, so the terms semua memang at the keyword here is at the discretion of the trustee. Alright, next one is non-discretionary. Okay, kalau namanya non-discretionary, maknanya not at your own discretion, it can be a fixed trust. Maknanya dalam trust deed tu dia dah bagi tahu dah ratio or entitlement of each beneficiary. Contohnya, okay, anak ada 2, nak divide sama rata, half-half. Ataupun anak ada 2 tapi seorang dapat 1/4, seorang dapat 3/4. Itu fixed trust. Tak ada, not depending on the trust deed tu. Tapi bergantung kepada the type of trust lah, which is kalau dia fixed trust so the settler tu yang determine tu. Trust it to be a non-discretionary ataupun kita kata fixed trust. So example kita tengok later. Trust for accumulation pun ada. Sometimes trustee may be given the discretion to accumulate part or whole of the income within the trust dulu. Maknanya whatever income yang dapat tu tak distribute lagi. Kumpul dulu. Let's say kumpul lah sampailah certain amount of time. Add to the capital dulu. So bila ada certain time tu barulah dia bayar pada beneficiary. It can also be a mixed trust. Maknanya trustee ada discretionary power over part of the trust income and non-discretionary power over the other part of the trust income. Boleh juga jadi mix. So the trust income here is divided into discretionary and non-discretionary part. This one become complicated lah. Sebab dia mix kan. Ada yang dia boleh masuk campur, ada yang dia kena follow. So beneficiary statutory income is then the aggregate of the appropriate share of discretionary and non-discretionary part. Okay, we can also have a charitable trust established for a purpose such as advancement of education, buat trust into education. Foundation, biasanya kita panggil alleviation of property, advancement of religion or some other purpose that is of benefit of the community. Okay, charitable trust differ from other trusts in that it does not have any particular beneficiaries. Okay, macam wakaf lah ataupun buat foundation untuk education kan. Okay, bila dah sampai siapa yang who are entitled, dia boleh bagi tapi tak ada specific beneficiaries. Kalau macam trust lain ni macam saya kata tadi katakan dia anak 2 anak. So orang-orang ni adalah the beneficiaries. But for charitable, nama charity, no specific beneficiaries. Tapi untuk particular purpose. Contoh kalau macam bagi set up wakaf contohnya kan. Wakaf is one of the trust juga. So wakaf for Muslim kita masuk dalam kategori charitable trust ni. So boleh set up certain amount of money untuk contohnya buat masjid. Kat situ boleh buat masjid je, tak boleh buat benda lain. So because the focus is actually on the purpose tu kalau charitable. Katakan buat foundation untuk education. Duit tu boleh guna untuk education je, tak boleh guna untuk benda lain. Buat trust untuk animal katakan, shelter untuk animal. So animal shelter sahaja, tak boleh buat untuk purpose lain. So for charitable trust the beneficiary would be an identified class of people. Dia bukan satu atau 2 orang tapi a group of people. We can also have a testamentary trust. So remember kita tengok estate tadi yang testator, testament is will. So kalau testamentary trust ni biasanya created in a will and only takes effect upon the death of a testator. Mati je baru jadi trust tu. Normally the terms of the trust are set out in the testator's will and often established where the settler wishes to provide for the children who have yet to reach adulthood or are handicapped. Okay, so dalam will dia ada mention lah, because macam tadi lah anak tu belum sampai umur yang sesuai lagi. So bila mati, harta tu semua pergi ke trust dulu. Umur dia cukup 21 baru dia boleh ambil. Alright, so again, source of income, some of you might be wondering kan, okay, orang yang dah mati, income apa lagi dia ada? Tak fikir macam tu orang yang dah mati ni, sometimes income dia lagi banyak dari yang hidup kan. So sometimes kita boleh kata the source of income, it can be forming or part of the property, business income dia. Kalau dia mati, takkan business tu nak tutup kan. Biasanya dia mati but business still running, still going on. Rental income, okay, dia masih ada rental income, tak ada siapa nak pergi jual property dia, so rental income dia ada sangat banyak, so that would be the source of income dia. Interest, dividends and also other income. So these are the sources of income of a trust body. Any source of a trustee of a trust being a source in his respect of partnership income, kalau ada kan, so kita dah buat partnership before raya hari tu, so boleh jadi income dia juga kalau trust body tu is a partner, so dia akan kira sebagai source of income. Okay, ini tadi kita dah tengok awal tadi example of countries with estate tax or inheritance tax, Japan paling tinggi 34%. Still ada Malaysia tak ada inheritance tax ni, kita tak ada. Kita macam saya kata tadi lah, whoever gets the income tu, dia will be taxed accordingly, according to individual tax kita lah. Alright, tadi kita baru tengok type of trust. So the tax consideration, this is what we're interested in. So for a trust body ataupun trust, so areas of taxation are generally on the RPGT. Kalau dia dispose as a real property ataupun dia dispose shares in a real property company. Okay, it can be a stamp duty, okay, applicable to instrument of transfer, and also income tax applicable for income earned both by trust and the beneficiaries. So inilah untuk trust ni certain tax consideration lah. Okay, ini if you go to the Income Tax Act, Section 61, it explains about trust generally. 61A, the exemption of real estate investment. Section 62, discretionary trust. 63, the trust annuities. Ini semua for trust lah. These are all related to trust. And also Section 64, kita ada estate under administration. Section 65, kita ada settlements. So that's why I said these three elements are actually related. Okay, it can also be a special tax exemption in relation to trust ni. So special tax exemption is given for the transfer of asset to certain trust vehicles. So kita ada stamp duty exemption. Kalau involve REIT, real property, real estate instrument trust ni, ataupun property trust fund approved by SP, ataupun approval ataupun disposal of tangible asset to a real estate investment trust. These are special tax exemption. So the trust body ni shall be treated as a separate person for income tax purposes. So income of the trust body shall be assessed and charged to tax separately from the income of a beneficiary. Okay. So kalau ada beneficiary, trust body, tadi kita tengok the diagram tu kan, so trust body will be assessed as a trust body. Okay, and charged to tax separately from the income of the beneficiary. Okay, so income tax rate is 24%. Kalau trust ni ialah non-resident, withholding tax akan apply lah untuk non-resident. Sebab withholding tax ni is tax to non-resident. So we want to know, sebab kalau dekat sini kita nampak Non-resident akan kena withholding tax provision. So we want to know macam mana kita nak tahu whether a trust ni is a resident ataupun tidak. Okay, first of all, we want to know the trust body ni is a resident for the basis year if any trustee or a member of that body is resident for that basis year. So kalau ada satu je trustee yang resident, kita kata trust body tu is a resident. Okay. Tapi kalau kita kata trust body ni not a tax resident, contohnya satu trust ni created outside Malaysia by a person who were not citizen. Dia bukan rakyat Malaysia pun. Dia set up trust outside Malaysia. Of course dia bukan tax resident lah. Ataupun income for trust body for that basis year is wholly derived from outside Malaysia. Income and trust tu semua dari luar Malaysia, bukan daripada dalam Malaysia pun. So kita tak kata dia resident juga. And the trust is administered for the whole of that basis year outside Malaysia. Semua all the trust ni done outside Malaysia, overseas, tak buat kat Malaysia pun. So dia tak boleh consider sebagai tax resident. At least 1/2 of the number of the member trustees are not resident in Malaysia for that basis year. Dekat sini dia datang balik lah resident status yang ada belajar lama hari tu kan. So kalau at least half ni not resident for that basis year, kita tak kata juga trust tu sebagai resident. Okay, beneficiaries. Tadi trust body Remember kita ada 3 parti tadi kan, settler, trust and also beneficiaries. So trust tadi will be taxed at a flat rate of 24%. So now kita tengok beneficiaries. So beneficiaries ni kita kata dia dapat source of income lah in relation to the trust. Income dia dapat daripada trust. So when the beneficiary is entitled to receive income from the trust, the beneficiary is generally subject to income tax on his share of the total from the trust. Okay, like I mentioned before, kita kata di Malaysia kita tak ada inheritance tax. Maksudnya you dapat harta dari whoever, you will not be taxed according to the flat rate tu, tak ada. Tapi whatever income that you get from settler ataupun from the trust ni will be taxed. Tapi kita tax dia depends on, tengoklah. Kalau dia resident individual, dia pakai scale rate macam yang kita buat sebelum ni. Macam kita kira before, the chargeable income macam before kita kira. Kalau dia non-resident individual, dia ada flat rate of 28%. Nampak tak? Ini bezanya. Bukan kita kata bila kat Malaysia tak ada inheritance tax tu, maknanya whatever income that you get as a beneficiary will not be taxed. No, bukan macam tu. Will be taxed tapi bukan flat rate macam negara lain tu. Kita will be taxed based on individual beneficiaries. Whether you are a resident ataupun a non-resident. Okay. So kalau resident macam biasalah ada scale rates. Kalau non-resident, dia flat rate je. Okay. Again, as a recap, what is a trust? So, it is an obligation which binds the trustee and the beneficiary to deal with the property. So, created through a trust deed between a settler, who is actually the owner of the property, who will transfer the property to the benefit of the beneficiaries. So, trust or trust body is a chargeable person. Ni maksud kita kata chargeable person, the trust body pun kena tax juga nanti. So as a chargeable person, dia kena tax. So income will be assessed and charged to a separate tax from income of beneficiary from any source. So let's say saya dapat income daripada certain trust body, I wish tapi tak ada. Dapat income from a certain trust body. So that income from the trust body tu saya kena tambah lah dengan all my income yang saya ada. Employment income, rental income, interest income, dividend income, whatever income yang saya ada, saya akan tambahkan dengan income from trust body ni. Dan saya akan tolak lah my relief, dapat chargeable income, baru kira based on the scale tax rate. Okay, so the calculation sama macam individual yang kita buat sebelum ni. So resident, tapi untuk resident trust body, kita nak tengok juga dia punya resident status kan, macam tadi lah. Kalau trustee is a resident in Malaysia, trust tu kita kata dia resident. Kalau dia akan jadi non-resident, kalau trust body tu created outside Malaysia by non-citizen, ataupun income received from outside Malaysia, administered from outside Malaysia, ataupun half of the trustee are not resident in Malaysia for that particular year of assessment. Okay, so the tax computation macam tadi saya katakan lah, dia jadi macam kira biasa je lah. Kalau ada business income, interest rental, dapat aggregate income, tolak annuity, tolak donation, dapat chargeable income. So this is the tax computation for a trust body. 24% flat rate. Ini untuk trust body. Tapi bila pergi dekat beneficiary, so ada dua saya tambah dekat sini lah. Nanti takut confuse pula ni tax computation untuk siapa kan. This is tax computation untuk trust body. So this one is the tax computation for beneficiary. Okay, ini tadi trust body daripada trust tadi dia ada chargeable income, tolak tax payable, dia dapat income distributed. So trust body ni kita kira dia macam business income lah. Dia ada income dia sendiri, dah tolak dengan tax 24% tadi, dia ada balance. Balance tu kita kata income distributed. Income ni lah yang dia nak distribute kepada beneficiary. Boleh faham sebab trust body tu tadi kita kata trust body is a chargeable person kan. Sebab tu trust body ni ada tax payable, kena bayar tax. So the lebihan tu lepas dia dah ada income yang sangat banyak, dia dah bayar tax 24%, ada balance tu akan distributed to the beneficiary. Okay. So beneficiary depends lah, kalau contoh dekat sini ada A and B. So katakanlah beneficiary ni dapat income from trust. Okay. Tolak personal relief dia. So tax payable by a trust body. So ni kalau ada tax refund lah. So this one distributed to beneficiary. Ada example kita tengok example dekat sini. Okay, before that let's look at the tax computation for a trust. So trust income could be generated from business and also non-business income. Again it can be business income, rental income, dividend income, interest income, deductible expenses. Okay, paid for trust administration not deductible. Tapi kalau paid as a consequences of managing business of the trust, it is allowable. Income distributed to the beneficiary not deductible in arriving the trust total income. Annuity payable to beneficiaries deductible. Tax rate ni as at 2080 dah. 24% lagi. Okay, one example for you here. Boleh tengok dulu. We have a trust, it's a resident trust in Malaysia for the business year 2018. B, a resident in Malaysia, is the sole beneficiary. Maksudnya dia seorang je lah the beneficiary of this trust, tak ada ramai-ramai. And is entitled to the whole of the distributable income from the trust. Remember kita pakai word distributable, which means tak macam tadi saya tunjukkan, ada income, tolak dengan tax, dia dapat distributable income. Distributable income ni dah nak bagi dekat beneficiary. So the statutory income of the trust body are as follow. Katakanlah statutory income dia 60,000 from rental, 10,000 from interest. So 60 plus 10 dapat 70,000. So sekarang ni dalam kes ni satu je beneficiary dia. So kita boleh katakan the whole ni pergi kepada beneficiary. So chargeable income ni kita letak kat sini, kita boleh letak nil dulu. So the deduction of the beneficiary share of total income of 70,000 is allowed if the Director General of IRB is satisfied that AA Trust and beneficiary B are resident in Malaysia for the year of assessment 2018. Okay, so kena bagi dia tengok dululah bukti-bukti that okay they are resident. So if no deduction is allowed, then the chargeable income of AA Trust is 70,000 and the tax payable for the year assessment 2018 would be 16,800. 70,000 times 24%. Kat sini nampak income dia. Dia sepatutnya kalau ini tak ada 70,000 ni sebab tu ada note dekat sini. So untuk trust body ni income dia 70,000, dia will be charged at 24%. So 70,000 times 24 jadi 16,800. So beneficiary B share of the total income of the trust for the year assessment is 70,000. Okay, 70,000 ni dia dapat lah, B dapat 70,000. So 70,000 is deemed to be B's statutory income from his ordinary source. Nampak tak? So B ni nanti banyaklah dia kena bayar tax sebab 70,000 dapat from this trust, tambah lagi dengan whatever income yang dia ada. So kalau dia resident macam ni dia kata dia resident, so kita akan kira dia based on the scale tax rate. Okay, so basically this is how trust works lah, and also when the beneficiary gets the income, dia akan dapat macam ni. Kita akan kira balik. But the trust, again macam saya kata tadi, the trust is a chargeable person. So income dia 70,000, dia kena bayar 24% tax. flat rate untuk trust body. Tapi untuk registered individual 70 ni dia kena tambah income lain dan kena darab income tax based on the scale rate. Okay, income of a trust. So again, where the entitlement of a beneficiary or beneficiaries is the whole or a particular fraction, depending on the trust deed. Macam saya kata tadi lah, it depends. Sometimes anak dua pun dia tak boleh bagi, ataupun the beneficiary ada dua pun tak semestinya dua-dua tak akan dapat sama banyak. So maybe ada dia punya fraction dia. So of the distributed income from the trust body of a trust, whether registered or not, for the basis year, for year of assessment. Okay, the portion would be entitlement of the beneficiary or beneficiaries to the total income of the trust body of the trust. So whatever yang beneficiary ni dapat ni will be taxed on the beneficiary irrespective whether the beneficiary has received that income or not. Okay, although entitlement to both distributable income and total income is the same proportion, the amount distributable income received may not be an amount that is equal to the beneficiary's share of the total income of the trust body or a trust. Alright, y'all tengok dulu example non-discretionary trust ni. So untuk tadi as a keyword here, it is a non-discretionary trust. Maksudnya dah ada percentage dah dekat sini. So fixed, this is a fixed trust. Right, so as you can see here, we have a non-discretionary trust who is a resident in Malaysia. So there are two beneficiaries, C and D, who are entitled to 1/4 and 3/4 share of the distributable income respectively. So this is the income of the trust, gross income from business, gross income from interest, business expenses, revenue, business expenses, capital, and administrative expenses. Okay, contohnya, let's say the administrative expenses ni are paid for the management and administration of the trust, which are not wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of income. Therefore, the administrative expenses is not deductible in the settlement of the total income of a trust. Macam tadi lah, dia mesti kalau nak tolak admin expenses dia mesti berkaitan dengan production of income. But it is mentioned here, not wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of income, which means tak boleh tolak lah. So as you can see here, so we have gross income less expenses. So this is the distributable income, okay, for the trust. So for the total income, we have the gross business income, allowable business expenses 30,000. Ini the revenue part ni, capital tak boleh tolak. Capital ni yang macam renovation semua tu kan. So you know the capital expenditure memang kita tak boleh tolak as it's not allowed as expenditure expenses. So 90,000 minus 30. 80,000 gross income, sorry, 80,000 minus 30 that will give us 50,000. So the other statutory interest income 10,000. So aggregate income or total income which is 60,000. So from the distributable income untuk beneficiary ni kita boleh tengok so C dapat 1/4. So distributable income is 45,000. Maknanya gross income tadi semua ni 90,000 minus 45,000 So distributable income for the calculation. Total income ada 60,000. So here kita ada 60,000, 1/4 15,000. Dia ni dapat 3/4, dia dapat 45,000. So kita nak tengok total income ni So C dapat 15,000, D dapat 45,000. Whereby we can see that share of total income by C and D ni from the trust body for the year of assessment 2018 is deemed to be the statutory income from their ordinary source for that year. So nanti income ni akan dibawa lah. Untuk for example for C kita akan tambah dengan whatever income yang dia ada and will be tax at a scale rate. Okay, another example, again a non-discretionary trust juga, non-resident for the basis year 2018. So the trust body ada income of 10,000 and derive foreign source income of 5,000. So each of the two beneficiaries, A and B, are entitled to half share of the distributable income of 15,000 from the trust body. A is a resident, B is not a resident. Okay, so kita boleh tengoklah 5,000 5,000 pula. 10,000 for the total income. Kita nak tengok this part Distributable income ni kita ambil semua. 10 plus 5. So total income 10,000 tadi. Seorang dapat half. So seorang dapat each dapat 5,000 So this for the distributable income, based on the distributable income ni, kita totalkan lah 10 plus 5 jadi 15. So seorang separuh dapat 7,500. Kita tengok A dulu. A is a resident so statutory income from ordinary source is 5,000. Okay. Foreign source of income derived by A. Tadi 5,000 kan, kalau ikutkan 5,000 bahagi 2 dapat 2,500 jugalah. So foreign income dia 2,500 tapi exempted by virtue of paragraph 28 schedule 6 of the Income Tax Act. Remember masa kita buat dulu foreign income yang dapat not taxable So dia punya income is 5,000 lah yang kena tax. Statutory income dia yang kena tax. Tapi untuk B, dia dapat 5,000 dekat sini. Foreign source yang dia dapat 2,005 pun is not subject to tax because income not derived from Malaysia. Okay, so actually the treatment sama lah walaupun seorang ni non-resident tapi sebab income tu foreign source of income so memang not taxable lah walaupun dia non-resident. Alright, tadi kalau tengok different types of trust, there are trust subject to accumulation. Okay. So total income of the trust, kalau accumulation dia ada A times B divided by C. So A is the total income, B is the distributable income after accumulation, C is the distributable income before accumulation. Okay, contohnya dekat sini, gross income 110. Rental income 20,000, business expenses 60 tapi termasuk capital expenditure. So business expenses yang boleh tolak is only 40,000 60 minus 20. So accumulation for G is 17,500. So ini yang akan be distributed equally for example to E and F Baik, sini contohnya tadi lah. Gross business income minus expenses, rental, before accumulation 70,000, accumulation for G, ikut formula tadi 17,500, so after accumulation 52,500. So after the gross business income would be 110,000 minus 40,000, tax deductible expenses. So the statutory business income is 70,000. Alright, plus dengan rent 20,000, so the total income would be 90,000. So kita nak kira balik the total income of the trust body 90,000 times inilah tadi after accumulation divide by before accumulation. So that will give us 67,500. So kalau bagi dekat E seorang separuh half lah akan dapat 33,750 each. This is the calculation for discretionary trust Dia ada formula dia juga lah. total income of the trust body. R, total sum received by beneficiary, and AR is the aggregate sum received by all beneficiaries. Okay, ini contohnya lah total income of the trust body, contohnya 40,000. Two beneficiaries, okay, K and L. So katakanlah K dapat 20, L dapat 30. So lebih daripada 40,000 ni. So bila more than the total income of the trust body, so statutory income, ordinary source, kita kira macam ni lah. Kita ambil 40,000 ni. Contoh untuk K dia dapat 20 divide by 50. Total ni 20 plus 30, 50. That will give them 60,000 and L akan dapat 24,000. Okay, ini ialah amount received based on this figure. So if the amount received by K is 12,000 and L is 18,000, then statutory income shall be amount received by them. Ini contoh je lah. So sebab tu ada word say dekat sini. So statutory income from ordinary source shall be 12,000 and 18,000, which is the amount received yang sepatutnya dia receive. Alright, I think I will continue straight with settlements. Untuk next week kita buat exercise. So settlement ni slide dah tak banyak. So last one is settlements. Right, so when we talk about settlement, we are talking about any trust. Jadi termasuk trust juga settlement ni, trust covenant arrangement or agreement and any transfer of asset and income. But it does not include settlement in which the opinion of the DG is made for valuable and adequate consideration, ataupun settlement resulting from an order of a court, or any agreement made by an employer to pay to an employee or to the widow or any relative or dependent on an employee after his death, such as remuneration, pension or lump sum in the opinion of the DG is fair and reasonable. So tak termasuk yang ni. The creation of settlement can be written or oral. So any income or asset from settlement are deemed to be that of settler. In the event of further income from assets is deemed income of the settler. And untuk settlement ni, it can be revocable or revocable settlement under section 65(2). It can be immediately or in future. The settler or husband and wife or the settler may be entitled for the whole or part of income or asset. The section does not apply if the property reverted back to the settler if the beneficiary death before the settler. Maknanya dia bagi dulu, tapi it can be certain condition, tiba-tiba the beneficiary tu mati dulu. Not the settler, dia bagi tapi the beneficiary tu mati. So sometimes the property can be revert back to the settler, dia dapat balik lah. Alright, according to section 65(3 ni, if the settler use the income for its own use, the income will be the income of settler, but the beneficiary which entitled to this income will be given tax refund if he paid the tax. So DG akan bagi certificate lah which specify the amount tax paid to be a conclusive evidence. Tapi the settler ni three condition mesti ada fulfill these three condition. Unmarked relative and age of less than 21 years old, revocation at any time, or settler make use of the income of the settled property. But this section only apply once in a lifetime. Upon demise of the settler, beneficiary ni will be liable to the income tax of the settled property lah. Kalau tak, dia tak kena bayar tax, just the settler je. Alright, sometimes the settlement ni can be done by creating a trust. So they related and interrelated. So when the event of income of settlement deemed income of settler and the term has established a trust, so the trust income is treated as the income beneficiary. So kita akan buat macam kita buat trust tadi lah. And any income of beneficiary from settlement will be deemed as income of settler. Kalau settlement tu revocable and trust is created, statutory income is deemed to be the income of settler. So kalau ada more than one settler, income arising is a portion between the settler. Okay, so contoh kat sini Mr. X ni transfers his property to a trust body tax resident in Malaysia for his son B and daughter C age 10 and 15 at 1st January 2017. So total income is 100,000. Distributable income 90,000, of which B and C are entitled equally. Okay, assume that B and C each receive 45,000. In addition, C received 20,000 income from abroad. So B and C would be deemed to have no statutory income. So kita tengok dekat sini, B's income tadi dapat half daripada 100 ni, 50. C's income half, 50. Further source lagi, exempted. So C shall be treated as resident for purpose of section 65, 5. So nampak tak dekat sini, dia masih lagi belum 21 So the father ni boleh transfer property pergi trust body untuk anak orang yang masih kecil ni. So income akan dapat dekat anak tu lah. But the tax ni, in this case the settler masih lagi hidup, dia belum mati, dia masih lagi hidup, so dia akan bayar tax tu lah. Okay. Ni pun sama juga. B and Z contributed the following to a trust body resident for the benefit of X and Y, children of B. So X and Y are age 15 as at 1st January 2017. Nampak? Buat settlement untuk yang below 21. So ada two properties, 100 worth of shares jointly owned by B and Z. Okay, dividend 15,000. Assuming that this is irrevocable trust. So two properties, half shares to be income of Z. B would be considered to be a settler for the 50,000 worth of shares in XYZ Berhad. So jointly owned by B and Z. Okay, so dia dua orang ni lah. Both husband and wife ni. So kita kira the husband and wife portion tu dulu. Untuk for the settler. So two properties, half shares of XYZ to be income of Z. B would be considered as settler, 50,000 worth of shares. So the income 35,000 shall be the income of the settler. Maknanya 20,000, 15,000 ni plus dengan income ni 20,000. So B's deemed portion would be 7,500, half of the dividend income. 15,000 ni half 7,500. So untuk Z dia ada rental income 20,000 ni plus dengan share of dividend income. So total would be 27,500 plus 7,500 and 35,000. So 35,000 ni income untuk dia, income untuk settler tu. Alright, so again settlement is transfer of person income to another person. Okay, dia transfer juga. Engage in disposition agreement or arrangement, transfer of asset or income. So it can be reciprocal or revocable. Transfer of income to unmarried child would not be applied if section 65(1) ni kalau child tu under 21 who is married above age 21 ataupun not within the definition of relative. Sebab tu kita tengok tadi example semua dia transfer dekat anak yang below 21 Tapi kalau macam ni tak boleh lah, tak boleh pakai yang section tadi lah So not within the definition of relative, child of the settler, wife, grandchild, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, cousin. Kalau ini je masuk dalam kategori relative. Kalau tak masuk dalam kategori ni, bukanlah girlfriend, boyfriend semua tak boleh lah masuk dalam ni. Okay, I have one question dekat sini. Sekejap I share with you. Okay. Alright, you can copy this question. We will discuss this together with soalan untuk estate next week. Next week lah kita buat soalan Because I want to do that with group B as well. Kalau kita buat hari ni, so this will be a recorded version kan. So lucu lah jawapan semua kan. So did you get this question? Or you want me to share? Boleh ambil gambar je kan? So ini contoh untuk settlements lah for this one, you have to explain who would be accessible on the income in respect of the above settlement. So sekarang nampak dia bagi property dia masih hidup tapi ada, because this is under settlement, kita boleh tengok lah. Right, if we look at our syllabus after trust, estate and settlement, kita cuma ada zakat and also tax administration and tax planning. So zakat dia quite long. Kalau zakat tak boleh buat 1 week, I will do it maybe in 2 weeks lah so that kita boleh fokus banyak, especially on the different types of zakat and the calculation of zakat tu. Any question for today? Ramai yang keluar masuk je saya tengok ni. So maybe the internet is not that strong. Dapat dah soalan ni? Everybody get the question? Okay, alright. So as promised, tomorrow bila saya dah upload the question dekat Google Classroom so I will let you know the quiz on capital allowance capital allowance quiz. And also questions untuk topik ni we will discuss next week lah before we proceed with zakat Oh, and masih saya teringat saya baru I just copied all your quizzes marks from my Google and also Google Classroom, and I noticed some of you did not submit the quiz and also the tutorial question. So please make sure whatever you have after this tolong buat because for example if your quiz tu saya dah return you get 0, which means you tak buat and you tak submit. So jangan nak text saya ke call ke bagi tahu tanya okay hari tu tak sempat buat whatever, tak ada when I give you time to complete the quiz or tutorial, please do it accordingly lah. Because for tutorial pun, I notice same name je yang akan appear yang tak hantar tu sama nama je. Saya belum contact lagi nama-nama tu, but you know who you are. Nama-nama yang tak buat quiz, nama-nama yang tak buat tutorial tu, I know who you are because I have record semua And if you look at your midterm exam result pun not that good so I really hope that you can answer and score your quiz, your assignments and also final assessment later sebabnya I know semua orang masih lagi online classes and some might think that tak apa, lecturer tak cari pun kelas online kan, datang kelas sign in nampak nama ada then consider datang kan tapi it is between you and yalah yourself kan But I noticed, like I said, both group A and also group B, nama sama je yang biasanya tak submit the tutorials and also the quiz tu. So please be more responsible. So those of you yang submit and buat tu, well done. And tutorial tu, if you look at the kita punya assessment, saya tak ada allocate specific marks for tutorial. But that will help you later. Kalau tengok macam tutorial pun tak hantar kan, daripada nak bagi bonus mark pun tak jadi. So please after this whenever we have quiz tolonglah buat sebab saya tak ada bagi quiz dalam masa yang singkat ataupun terkejut je kan so I let you know, I discuss with you and then still if you do not submit there's nothing else I can do lah. I cannot help a person who does not want to help themselves kan so again I will publish the quiz tomorrow. Hari ni nak buat pun you all tak sempat nak study kot so that will be on capital allowance, very simple quiz je on capital allowance tu. That would be on our Google Classroom so all the assessment would be in our Google Classroom later on. Untuk tajuk ni the quiz ni nanti I will let you know maybe next week lah so macam biasa quiz will be done every end of the topic. And also your assignment, I have updated the date until next Sunday, which is on the 30th May. So you have to submit before 11 PM together with the YouTube link. And so YouTube link nanti boleh share dalam WhatsApp group juga. And I will not allow for late submission. Okay, even your quiz pun ada saya nampak late lah. Kalau late setakat 5 minit, 10 minit tu I can understand. Tapi kalau late sampai 2 jam tu, that one I do not understand. You didn't tell me why you're late and yet you submit. Because Google tu sama macam my Google kan, dia boleh record the history. So kalau yang keluar late tu, I can check how late Are you, kalau late setakat 5 minutes tu, I can still consider. So if late 1 hour, 2 hours tu, something must be wrong lah, because I have allocated that time for you to complete the quiz. Okay, so if you have no more questions, I will see you next week, insyaAllah, for new topic, and I will update the recorded video later. Okay, alright, thank you.
Nak tanya sekejap.
Yep, yeah.
Agak-agak esok quiz Prof bagi masa berapa jam?
Kenapa?
Sebab ada nak pergi ke lain.
Ya,
Ya.
saya schedulekan untuk hari ni lah, sebab kita kalau ikutkan waktu kelas kita masih lagi ada kan sampai pukul 11 kan.
Ya. Oh,
I
okay.
schedule today je lah.
Okay,
Not tomorrow because saya pun tak suka nak schedule time lain daripada waktu kelas So if I schedule now, soalan dah ada, cuma nak klik apa ni, submit je. So you still have time to do sebab yang ni bukan multiple choice you kena buat and upload the answer. I schedule now lah. So that will be available maybe into 3 minutes time. Boleh Sambil buat, sambil baca buku pun boleh. Okay? Any other question? Tak dengar. Siapa cakap tu saya tak dengar. Tak ada? Kan? Alright, so if you have no questions, thank you very much. I'll see you next week. Okay, alright.
Doktor.
Okay, thank you.